It was about 3 weeks ago on a holiday in Kenya. We had a little private time away together with some friends, and I just decided that it was the right time, really. We've been talking about marriage for a while, so it wasn't a massively big surprise. But
The royal banquet was meant to be a night of unity and elegance. But when Camilla stepped into the grand hall draped in Catherine's cherished gown, the air shifted. Gasps echoed, whispers turned to stunned silence, and all eyes fell on Prince William. The weight of grief and betrayal collided in that moment. His face drained of color, his body trembled. And then, before the world could process what had unfolded,
When you go out with someone for quite a long time, you do get to know each other very, very well. You go through the good times, you go through the bad times, both personally, but also within a relationship as well. And, I think if you can come out of that stronger and, learn, as I said, things about yourself, it's certainly.
William collapsed to the floor, leaving the palace in chaos and the nation in shock. Royal state banquets represent some of the most carefully orchestrated events in the British monarchy's calendar. These gatherings are far more than elaborate dinner parties. They serve as diplomatic showcases where every detail, from the placement of crystal glasses to the choice of evening wear, carries significant meaning and follows centuries-old traditions. The recent state banquet at Windsor Castle in September 2025, honoring President Donald Trump's second state visit to the United Kingdom, provides a perfect example of how these events function as both ceremonial occasions and carefully choreographed displays of royal protocol. The event, held in St. George's Hall, welcomed 160 guests according to palace officials. This number represents the standard capacity for such occasions, with guest lists assembled through collaboration between the White House, the UK government, and the Foreign Commonwealth Office. Understanding the importance of these events requires appreciating their historical context. State banquets have been used by British monarchs for generations to strengthen diplomatic ties, honor visiting heads of state, and demonstrate the enduring power and prestige of the monarchy. The format follows strict traditions that have evolved over decades, with specific protocols governing everything from seating arrangements to dress codes. The dress code for state banquets is invariably white tie, the most formal level of evening dress in Western protocol. For men, this means wearing tailcoats with white bow ties, while women are expected to wear full-length evening gowns. Members of the royal family typically wear their orders, decorations, and ceremonial sashes, along with significant pieces of jewelry, including tiaras for female royals. The venue itself plays a crucial role in creating the atmosphere these events are designed to project. St. George's Hall at Windsor Castle, where the September 2025 banquet took place, exemplifies the grandeur associated with these occasions. The historic hall, with its Gothic Revival architecture and soaring ceilings, provides a backdrop that speaks to centuries of royal tradition and British heritage. Fashion choices at these events are never arbitrary. Every garment, piece of jewelry, and accessory is selected with careful consideration for its diplomatic significance, historical importance, and visual impact. Royal protocol dictates specific guidelines for appropriate attire, but within these parameters, individual choices can convey subtle messages about relationships, traditions, and values. Catherine, Princess of Wales, demonstrated this principle perfectly at the September 2025 state banquet. According to official palace statements, she wore a hand-embroidered gold chantilly lace evening gown created by British designer Philippa Leplay. The choice to support a British designer aligns with the broader diplomatic purpose of the evening, showcasing British craftsmanship and creativity to international guests. The gown featured intricate details, including hand-embroidered roses with couched gold cording, accented with French knots and satin-stitched blooms, demonstrating the high level of artistry that characterizes formal royal fashion. Catherine's jewelry selection proved equally significant. She wore the lover's knot tiara, one of her most frequently chosen pieces for formal occasions. This tiara carries particular historical weight, as it was originally created for Queen Mary in 1914 by the House of Gerard using pearls and diamonds from the royal collection. The piece later became associated with Princess Diana, who wore it regularly during her marriage to Charles, though she initially declined to wear it on her wedding day, opting instead for her family's Spencer tiara. The tiara's selection by Catherine speaks to the careful balance royal family members must strike between honoring historical traditions and establishing their own identities within those traditions. Fashion experts note that the Lover's Knot tiara, valued at approximately £1 million, is notably heavy, reportedly causing Princess Diana discomfort during extended wear. Catherine's comfort with the piece suggests her growing confidence in her royal role and her willingness to embrace the more challenging aspects of royal protocol. Queen Camilla's fashion choices for the same event reflected different considerations, but equal attention to protocol and symbolism. According to palace sources, she wore a royal blue silk American embroidered dress designed by Fiona Clare, paired with a sapphire and diamond tiara. The choice of blue can be interpreted as diplomatically appropriate, as it appears in both the British Union Jack and the American flag, subtly acknowledging the guest of honor, while maintaining royal dignity. The coordination between family members' fashion choices reflects the careful planning that goes into these events. Royal fashion choices are typically coordinated months in advance, with palace staff ensuring that no conflicts arise between different family members' selections. This coordination extends beyond simply avoiding identical outfits to consider how different choices will appear together in official photographs and how they align with the event's overall diplomatic objectives. The significance of jewelry at these events cannot be understated. Royal collections contain pieces with centuries of history, and the selection of specific items for particular occasions often carries meaning that extends far beyond aesthetic considerations. Tiaras, in particular, serve as visible symbols of rank and tradition within the royal hierarchy. The fact that Catherine and Camilla both wore tiaras to the September 2025 banquet reinforced their senior positions within the royal family and acknowledged the formal nature of the occasion. Recent royal fashion choices have also reflected contemporary considerations, including the royal family's response to personal challenges. Catherine's appearance at the September 2025 state banquet marked a significant return to formal duties following her cancer treatment in 2024. Her confident presentation at such a high-profile event signaled her full return to royal responsibilities and demonstrated the monarchy's resilience in the face of personal difficulties. The careful orchestration of these events extends to practical considerations as well. State banquets require extensive preparation, with planning beginning months in advance. King Charles and Queen Camilla, according to royal sources, personally inspect table settings and arrangements before events, working with the master of the household to ensure every detail meets appropriate standards. Photography protocols at state banquets also influence fashion choices. Official portraits taken before and during these events become part of the historical record, meaning that clothing and jewelry selections will be preserved and analyzed for generations. This awareness shapes how royal family members approach their fashion choices, understanding that their selections contribute to the visual legacy of both individual events and the monarchy more broadly. The September 2025 state banquet demonstrated how these traditions continue to evolve while maintaining their essential character. The inclusion of modern technology leaders like Apple CEO Tim Cook and OpenAI's Sam Altman in the guest list reflected contemporary diplomatic realities, while the formal dress code and ceremonial elements maintained connections to historical precedents. Understanding these events requires recognizing that they serve multiple purposes simultaneously. They function as diplomatic tools, cultural showcases, historical continuations, and public relations opportunities. Fashion choices contribute to all these functions, making seemingly simple decisions about clothing and jewelry into complex considerations that reflect the intricate responsibilities of modern monarchy. The moment when royal family members and their guests enter St. George's Hall at Windsor Castle represents the culmination of months of preparation and represents one of the most precisely choreographed moments in British diplomatic protocol. The September 2025 state banquet honoring President Trump provided a perfect example of how these carefully orchestrated entrances function to create both spectacle and diplomatic symbolism. The entrance sequence follows strict protocols that have been refined over generations of royal hospitality. King Charles III entered the magnificent hall walking alongside President Trump, with the orchestra playing the British national anthem as the assembled guests rose from their seats. This moment signals the formal beginning of the evening's proceedings and establishes the hierarchical relationships that will govern the rest of the event. The seating arrangements at state banquets represent a complex diplomatic calculation that extends far beyond simple etiquette. According to palace sources, the royal family designates all seating arrangements, though these decisions are made in consultation with government officials and representatives from the visiting nation. The placement of individuals around the table communicates messages about relationships, importance, and diplomatic priorities that experienced observers can read like a diplomatic cipher. At the September 2025 banquet, President Trump was positioned as the guest of honor between King Charles III and Catherine, Princess of Wales. This placement follows established protocol that positions the visiting head of state to the right of the monarch, the traditional position of honor in British royal protocol. Catherine's placement on Trump's other side reflects both her senior position within the royal family and the diplomatic importance of ensuring that the guest of honor has engaging conversation partners throughout the meal. Facing them across the table, First Lady Melania Trump was seated between Queen Camilla and Prince William. This arrangement ensures that married couples can maintain visual contact with each other throughout the lengthy meal, while also guaranteeing that each has different conversation partners. The strategic separation of spouses follows royal dining tradition that encourages broader social interaction among guests and prevents the formation of isolated conversational clusters. The physical layout of the dining arrangement in St. George's Hall creates its own dramatic impact. The room, measuring 180 feet in length and nearly 30 feet in width, accommodates a single mahogany table that stretches 164 feet down the center of the space. This remarkable piece of furniture is assembled specifically for state banquets, requiring palace staff several days to construct and position properly. The table can accommodate exactly 160 guests, a number that has become the standard capacity for these events. The preparation of this table represents one of the most meticulous processes in royal protocol. Staff begin assembly of the table sections on Sunday, a full week before the event. The positioning of cutlery takes place on Monday, with each place setting requiring precise measurement to ensure consistent spacing and alignment. The addition of glassware, plates, and decorative elements continues throughout the week, with final floral arrangements added just hours before guests arrive. Each place setting includes 6 glasses, positioned according to strict protocol that reflects the complexity of the wine service planned for the evening. The glasses are arranged to accommodate different beverages served throughout the multiple courses, including water, champagne, white wine, red wine, dessert wine, and port. The precise positioning of each glass follows measurements that ensure guests can easily reach their appropriate drink, while maintaining the visual symmetry essential to the table's overall appearance. The table service itself represents centuries of royal collecting and craftsmanship. The Grand Service, a collection of over 4,000 pieces of silver-gilt tableware originally created for King George IV between 1762 and 1830, provides the foundation for state banquet table settings. This service, according to the Royal Collection Trust, includes 140 dishes, 288 dinner plates, 118 salt containers, 12 ice buckets, 58 dessert stands and centerpieces, and 107 candelabra. The service is so extensive and valuable that it has never been replaced, though individual pieces have been added or modified over the centuries. The visual impact of the prepared table relies heavily on floral arrangements that serve both aesthetic and diplomatic purposes. For the Trump banquet, palace gardeners selected pink, purple, and yellow seasonal blooms from the gardens at Windsor Castle, Buckingham Palace, and the Seville Garden in Windsor Great Park. These flowers were arranged in silver-gilt centerpieces from the Grand Service Collection, creating elaborate displays that run the length of the 164-foot table. The choice of flowers reflects both seasonal availability and subtle diplomatic messaging. Royal florists work closely with protocol officials to ensure that flower selections complement the evening's broader themes, while avoiding any blooms that might have negative cultural associations for the visiting delegation. After the banquet, these flowers are traditionally donated to Floral Angels, a charity supported by Queen Camilla that distributes them to hospices, elderly care homes, and shelters. The serving of the meal itself requires extraordinary coordination among palace staff. 19 serving stations are established around the perimeter of St. George's Hall, each manned by 4 staff members: a page, a footman, an under-butler, and a wine butler. These teams use a sophisticated coordination system, sometimes described as a traffic light system, to ensure that all 160 guests receive each course simultaneously. The complexity of this service becomes apparent when considering the logistics involved. Staff must coordinate the serving of multiple courses to guests seated along a 164-foot table, while maintaining the precise timing essential to formal dining protocol. Each serving station covers a specific section of the table, with staff members trained to move in choreographed patterns that minimize disruption to guests while ensuring efficient service. The menu itself represents months of planning and reflects both diplomatic considerations and royal culinary traditions. For the Trump banquet, the menu was written in French, following an 11th century tradition that reflects the historical influence of Norman French on English court culture. The meal included Hampshire watercress panna cotta with Parmesan shortbread and quail egg salad as a starter, followed by a saddle of Sandringham lamb with seasonal vegetables, and finishing with a vanilla ice cream bomb containing Kentish raspberry sorbet and poached Victoria plums. The wine service accompanying the meal reflects the sophistication of the royal cellar and the diplomatic importance of the occasion. Royal sommeliers, working with the clerk of the royal cellars and the yeoman of the royal cellars, select wines that complement both the menu and the diplomatic significance of the evening. For the Trump banquet, after-dinner drinks included a 1945 vintage port, selected to honor Trump's position as the 45th president, and a 1912 cognac from the birth year of Trump's Scottish-born mother. A special cocktail created specifically for the occasion demonstrated the contemporary evolution of royal hospitality traditions. The transatlantic whiskey sour blended Johnnie Walker Black Label whiskey with marmalade citrus flavors, topped with pecan foam and garnished with a toasted marshmallow served on a star-shaped biscuit designed to evoke American s'mores. This creation reflected King Charles's innovation of creating unique cocktails for each state visit, incorporating elements that honor both British and visiting nation traditions. The musical accompaniment to the evening provides another layer of diplomatic and cultural significance. The Duchess of Edinburgh's String Orchestra, formed in 2014, performs from the gallery overlooking St. George's Hall. The orchestra's musical selections for the Trump banquet included pieces known to appear regularly on the president's event playlists, including Nessun Dorma, You Can't Always Get What You Want by the Rolling Stones, and Elton John's Tiny Dancer. The ceremony of speeches and toasts represents the formal diplomatic core of the evening. Both the monarch and the visiting head of state deliver prepared remarks that address the relationship between their nations, while acknowledging shared values and mutual interests. These speeches are carefully crafted by diplomatic staff from both countries and reviewed multiple times before delivery to ensure they strike appropriate tones and avoid potential controversies. The timing of the evening follows precise protocols that account for both ceremonial requirements and practical considerations. Guests typically gather for the banquet at 8:00 p.m., with formal proceedings beginning at 8:30 p.m. when speeches and toasts are delivered. The meal service follows immediately after the ceremonial elements, with the entire evening typically concluding around 11:00 p.m. to accommodate the schedules of senior government officials and diplomatic representatives. The guest list itself represents a careful balance of diplomatic, cultural, and economic considerations. For the Trump banquet, the 160 invited guests were selected to represent what palace officials described as Atlantic relationships, with names submitted by the British government, the White House, and the royal household. The final list included technology leaders like Apple CEO Tim Cook and OpenAI CEO Sam Altman, reflecting the growing importance of tech sector relationships in US-UK diplomatic and economic ties. Notable attendees also included media mogul Rupert Murdoch, whose presence generated some commentary given ongoing legal disputes between his media properties and the Trump administration. Prime Minister Keir Starmer was seated alongside Stephen Schwarzman, CEO of the Blackstone Investment Group, reflecting the evening's focus on business and economic relationships rather than entertainment industry figures. The evening concluded with a traditional element that dates to Queen Victoria's reign, the procession of 12 pipers around the dining hall. This ceremony signals the formal end of the banquet and provides guests with a distinctly British cultural experience that reinforces the ceremonial nature of the entire event. Understanding these elaborate proceedings requires recognizing that state banquets function as much more than simple dinner parties. They represent sophisticated tools of diplomatic soft power, designed to create memorable experiences that reinforce positive relationships between nations, while showcasing the best of British cultural traditions and hospitality standards. The complex web of relationships within the British royal family has undergone significant evolution in recent years, shaped by personal challenges, institutional pressures, and generational differences in approach to monarchy. Understanding these dynamics requires examining both the historical context that created current tensions and the contemporary challenges that continue to influence family interactions. Prince William's relationship with Queen Camilla represents one of the most carefully managed and diplomatically sensitive aspects of modern royal family dynamics. Royal expert Christopher Anderson claimed that when Camilla first met William in 1998, she was trembling like a leaf and needed a vodka and tonic afterward because Camilla and the world knew she had destroyed the marriage of William's parents, Charles and Diana. This initial meeting, which occurred just 1 year after Princess Diana's death, established the foundation for a relationship that would remain complicated for decades. The historical context surrounding this relationship cannot be understated. Diana's marriage to Charles began showing strain by 1986, when both began having affairs, with Charles resuming his relationship with Camilla Parker Bowles. For William and his brother Harry, their childhood was marked by the very public breakdown of their parents' marriage, with Diana herself later acknowledging in interviews that there were 3 of us in this marriage, so it was a bit crowded, referring directly to Camilla's ongoing presence in Charles's life. According to royal sources, William and Harry had always distrusted Camilla and felt resentment toward her because of their devotion to their mother. They never felt comfortable opening up to her in any real way. This fundamental distrust was compounded by allegations that emerged years later regarding Camilla's relationship with the British press. Sources claim that William and Harry's distrust grew when they found out Camilla was leaking stories to the press to make herself look better. Despite these challenging beginnings, the relationship between William and Camilla has evolved into what royal observers describe as a functional working partnership. Royal experts note that William was very cordial to Camilla, and their relationship has always been civil, largely because Camilla has been shrewd enough not to ever try to instruct William in any way. This careful boundary setting has allowed both individuals to maintain their positions within the family structure while avoiding direct confrontations. The evolution of their relationship gained particular significance during 2024, when both King Charles and Princess Catherine were diagnosed with cancer. These parallel health crises forced William and Camilla to work more closely together as they supported the monarchy during a period of institutional vulnerability. Royal sources indicated that William has warmed up to Camilla over time, and that their connection has evolved into something resembling a familial relationship these days. However, underlying tensions remain evident. Royal author Christopher Anderson noted that while their relationship has improved, he tolerates her. and that Camilla has always been a little afraid of William. This dynamic reflects the complex balance between personal history and professional necessity that characterizes many modern royal relationships. The relationship between King Charles and Prince William has also experienced significant strain, particularly as discussions about succession have become more relevant due to the king's age and health challenges. William described 2024 as probably been the hardest year in my life, acknowledging the difficulty of managing increased responsibilities while supporting both his father and wife through their cancer diagnoses. Royal sources suggest that the dynamics have shifted between Charles and William, with conversations about William's succession being a sensitive topic that creates occasional tension. This tension stems from fundamental differences in their approaches to monarchy and royal duty. A family friend described their relationship as tense, difficult, formal, and fraught, with William having a deep-seated resentment of his father rooted in his childhood trauma. The generational divide between Charles and William extends beyond personal dynamics to encompass their visions for the future of the monarchy. During a recent interview in Cape Town, William discussed his plans to do it differently and do it for my generation, explaining that he wants to approach royal duties with maybe a smaller R in the royal. This modernizing approach contrasts with Charles's more traditional perspective on royal protocols and responsibilities. Sources close to the royal family indicate that Charles believes in tradition and continuity above all. William thinks many aspects of his father's approach are outdated, preferring a more modern interpretation of monarchy. These philosophical differences have created practical tensions, with reports suggesting that the two royals have difficulty finding common ground on various ceremonial and operational matters. The strain in their relationship became particularly evident during recent family gatherings. A former Buckingham Palace staffer revealed that William and Charles spent no time at all together privately one-on-one when William and Kate were in Balmoral last week, with the king preferring to withdraw to the privacy of his own private home, Burke Hall, 8 miles away from the castle. Professional jealousy has also emerged as a complicating factor in their relationship. Royal sources suggest that Charles and William are rivals when it comes to work, and that Charles's jealousy over William's popularity is similar to how he felt about Diana. This comparison to Charles's complicated feelings toward his late first wife adds another layer of psychological complexity to the father-son dynamic. The issue of Prince Andrew's continued involvement in family events has become a particular point of contention between Charles and William. Royal experts indicate that William has no time for his uncle and was absolutely influential in banishing Andrew from royal life after his involvement with Jeffrey Epstein. However, after Queen Elizabeth's death, King Charles decided Andrew was going to be brought back into the family fold, leading William to say absolutely not, though the king overruled him. This disagreement represents what royal observers describe as this sort of interesting power struggle going on between Charles and William, with experts predicting that William will double down once he becomes king. The Andrew situation serves as a microcosm of broader disagreements about how the monarchy should handle scandals and maintain its public image. The question of Prince Harry's potential reconciliation with the family has created additional tension between Charles and William. While there appears to be a mutual desire for reconciliation between Charles and Harry, William is less inclined to bring Harry back into the royal fold. This disagreement about Harry's future role, if any, in royal life represents another area where Charles and William's approaches diverge significantly. Recent meetings between Charles and Harry have reportedly occurred without William's knowledge or approval, further straining the father-son relationship. Harry and Charles met privately for tea in September 2024, marking their first face-to-face meeting in over a year, while William was conducting separate royal duties in Wales. The symbolic separation of their schedules during this period reflects the deeper divisions within the family. The role of Queen Camilla in these family dynamics cannot be ignored. Royal expert Helena Chard noted that Queen Camilla, King Charles's rock, always makes sure that Prince William is aware of his possible disrespect towards his father where necessary. This mediating role places Camilla in the delicate position of managing relationships between the two most senior male royals. Despite the challenges, sources suggest that if his dad's happy, William is happy, indicating that personal family harmony remains important to William, despite their professional disagreements. This sentiment suggests that the underlying affection between father and son persists despite their institutional conflicts. The broader context of these relationship challenges includes the ongoing pressures facing the monarchy in the 21st century. 2024 has been described as a pivotal year that altered the map of the monarchy's future and tested its strength like no other time in history. The combination of health challenges, family divisions, and changing public expectations has created unprecedented pressures on the royal family's internal dynamics. Looking forward, these relationships will likely continue to evolve as institutional responsibilities shift and personal circumstances change. The careful balance between public duty and private family dynamics that characterizes modern royal life requires constant negotiation and adjustment. Understanding these complex relationships provides insight into how the monarchy adapts to contemporary challenges while maintaining its historical continuity and public role. The fashion choices and public appearances that capture media attention often mask these deeper currents of family dynamics, institutional pressure, and personal relationships that truly shape how the modern British royal family functions behind the scenes of ceremonial occasions and state events. The relationship between the British royal family and public perception has become increasingly complex in the digital age, where every appearance, gesture, and fashion choice is subject to immediate global scrutiny and interpretation. The aftermath of major royal events demonstrates how quickly narratives can spread and evolve, often taking on lives of their own that extend far beyond the original circumstances. The modern media landscape presents unique challenges for the royal family that previous generations never faced. Social media platforms, 24-hour news cycles, and instant global communication mean that royal events are no longer confined to traditional ceremonial coverage. Instead, they become subjects of detailed analysis, speculation, and commentary that can persist for months or years after the initial event. Recent polling data from Ipsos and YouGov provides insight into how the British public actually perceives the royal family in 2024 and 2025. According to March 2024 polling, Catherine, Princess of Wales, remains the most popular member of the royal family with 61% favorability, followed closely by Prince William at 60% and Princess Anne at 56%. These figures represent a remarkable consistency in public support, despite the various challenges the family has faced. The data reveals significant generational differences in attitudes toward the monarchy. While 82% of people over 65 support continuing the monarchy, only 41% of those aged 18 to 24 share this view, with 42% of young adults actually preferring an elected head of state. This generational divide represents one of the most significant long-term challenges facing the institution, as younger demographics show markedly different expectations and levels of engagement with royal traditions. Despite periodic controversies and intense media coverage, approximately 60% of the British public consistently express positive views about the royal family as an institution. YouGov polling from August 2025 shows that 65% of Britons believe the country should continue to have a monarchy, while only 23% favor replacing it with an elected head of state. These figures demonstrate the monarchy's continued relevance in contemporary British society, even amid changing social attitudes. The financial aspects of royal life have become increasingly subject to public scrutiny, particularly following the announcement that the sovereign grant would increase by $45 million to reach a record $132 million in 2025. Critics have described this increase as scandalous, at a time when the UK government faces budget constraints in funding schools, hospitals, and other public services. Royal finances expert Richard Palmer noted that The days of the royal family doing 3,500 engagements a year are now long gone, so the public is getting less for their money. The debate over royal finances reflects broader questions about value and relevance in modern society. A November 2024 documentary examining the duchies of Lancaster and Cornwall highlighted the millions in private income generated for the King and Prince of Wales, raising questions about transparency and the true cost of maintaining the monarchy. These financial discussions often intersect with fashion and lifestyle coverage, as public interest in royal expenditures extends to clothing, jewelry, and ceremonial expenses. Media coverage of royal fashion serves multiple functions beyond simple style reporting. Fashion choices become diplomatic tools, cultural statements, and subjects of political interpretation. When royal family members select British designers for major events, these choices support domestic industry and project messages about national identity. Conversely, fashion missteps or controversial choices can generate negative coverage that overshadows the intended ceremonial or diplomatic purposes of events. The international dimension of royal coverage adds another layer of complexity to how fashion and ceremonial choices are interpreted. American polling from November 2024 shows that while 72% of Americans are aware of Catherine's cancer diagnosis, only 3% think King Charles's record as monarch will be outstanding, with 38% rating it as average. These international perceptions influence how royal events are covered globally and affect Britain's soft power projection through ceremonial occasions. The role of social media in shaping royal narratives cannot be understated. Platforms like Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok allow for immediate commentary and analysis that can quickly amplify both positive and negative reactions to royal appearances. The official social media accounts of royal households have become important tools for controlling messaging and providing context for public appearances, though they cannot fully counteract the speed and reach of informal commentary. Recent years have seen several examples of how quickly royal fashion and ceremonial choices can become subjects of intense public debate. The careful coordination required for state banquets and formal occasions reflects an understanding that every visible element will be analyzed and interpreted by both domestic and international audiences. Palace staff work months in advance to ensure that clothing, jewelry, and ceremonial elements align with diplomatic objectives and avoid potential controversies. The health challenges faced by both King Charles and Catherine during 2024 demonstrated how public sympathy can influence coverage and perception of royal activities. Catherine's cancer announcement and subsequent treatment were handled with unprecedented transparency, generating largely positive public response. Her return to public duties, including high-profile events like state banquets, was covered as a sign of recovery and resilience rather than obligation to ceremonial duties. The impact of these health challenges extended to fashion coverage as well. Catherine's appearances following her treatment were analyzed not just for style choices, but as indicators of her well-being and the monarchy's stability. The symbolism of her jewelry selections, particularly pieces with historical significance, took on added meaning during this period of institutional vulnerability. King Charles's approach to handling his cancer diagnosis while maintaining royal duties has been viewed favorably by much of the public. His continued appearances at state functions and ceremonial events, despite ongoing treatment, have been interpreted as dedication to duty and institutional continuity. The energy he displayed during state visits, particularly his tour of Australia and Samoa in late 2024, helped counteract concerns about the monarchy's future stability. The broader context of Commonwealth relations adds complexity to how royal events are received and interpreted. Charles's designation as a controversial figure by some Australian senators during his state visit highlights the evolving nature of the monarchy's role in former colonies. These international dimensions affect how ceremonial events and fashion choices are planned and executed, as they must account for diverse audiences with different relationships to the British Crown. The generational transition within the royal family has created opportunities for modernization, while maintaining traditional elements that resonate with older demographics. Prince William's stated intention to approach royal duties with maybe a smaller R in the royal suggests an awareness of changing public expectations while respecting institutional continuity. This balancing act extends to ceremonial occasions, where traditional protocols must adapt to contemporary sensibilities without losing their essential character. The role of royal fashion in diplomatic contexts extends beyond individual style choices to encompass broader questions of cultural representation and international relations. State banquets and formal occasions serve as opportunities to showcase British culture, craftsmanship, and values to international audiences. The selection of British designers, the use of historic jewelry, and the incorporation of symbolic elements all contribute to these diplomatic objectives. Looking forward, the monarchy faces the ongoing challenge of maintaining relevance and support across increasingly diverse demographics while preserving the traditional elements that provide institutional stability. Public opinion data suggests that while support remains strong overall, it varies significantly by age, political affiliation, and region. The 2024 experiences of health challenges, financial scrutiny, and changing public expectations provide a preview of the ongoing adaptations required for institutional survival. The aftermath of major ceremonial events increasingly extends into social media analysis, fashion commentary, and diplomatic interpretation that can influence public perception for months or years afterward. This extended lifespan of royal coverage means that individual events carry greater weight and require more careful planning than in previous eras. The success of occasions like state banquets is measured not just in their immediate execution, but in their lasting impact on public opinion and international relations. The modern royal family must navigate between transparency and privacy, tradition and innovation, domestic expectations, and international obligations. Fashion choices, ceremonial protocols, and public appearances all contribute to this complex balancing act, where every decision carries potential consequences for institutional legitimacy and public support. Understanding these dynamics provides insight into why seemingly simple matters like clothing selection and seating arrangements receive such detailed attention and careful planning in contemporary royal life.